Hitchcock in the ClearType and Readability Research team, and Paul Linnerud, who wrote the original code, by the way, the T2 embed code, or who owned it. Actually, no, I think the Windows International team now own it. But anyway, he'd been deeply involved in it at the time. So I brought this group of people together and said, we got to fix this. What does it take for us to take a piece of proprietary Microsoft technology and turn it into a standard that's open sourceable? And that's what we did. We started that whole process. We documented the embedded OpenType format, because what used to be TrueType had evolved into becoming OpenType. That's a whole other story. I will tell you about OpenType one day. In fact, you can read it. It's on my blog. Okay. And we'll talk about that too. So anyway, it became embedded OpenType, and we documented it. Not only that, but we hired an outside contractor to build an embedded font unpacking system based solely off of the specification that we created, right? So that anybody could do it, right?
So you have like a sample implementation of the specification.
There's a sample implementation with the source code that we're going to make open source. We're going to give that to W3C along with all the specs and everything. The W3C is on the edge of setting up a working group to do this. Now things have got complicated since then, because a lot of the people in the open source community have implemented font linking, right, as another way of doing this. What font linking does is puts the entire raw TrueType font out on a server. And the font industry, as you can imagine, is freaking out at the possibility of the piracy that could result from this. So the font industry is very much still in support of embedded OpenType on the web, because they were consulted way back then. The system was built to satisfy them way back then. So we've been through this whole loop. So in fact, one of the leading font companies, Ascender, just recently launched a site called fontembedding.com, where they're supporting EOT font embedding. They're talking about business models for it. There's even a tool on there that lets you go create an embedded font. There's a tool on the Microsoft typography site, which is www.microsoft.com/typography. There's a tool called Weft, which is the Windows embedding font tool, which allows you to make these font objects, which are tied to the URL. So that they can't just be, the font objects can't just be dragged off your URL and put in somebody's system.
So I can't save them onto my hard drive and steal a font?
No, you can't. And you can't even save them onto your hard drive and put them on your website and use them on your website. You need to have bought a copy of the font initially. Or got it, or had it, received it as part of Windows or as part of Office or Mac Office 2008 or whatever.
So I'm going to ask the rude QA. So does this mean you're adding, you're proposing DRM for fonts for websites on the web?
It's not DRM. It isn't DRM. It's simply anti-piracy. There's no encryption involved in here, really.
Okay.
To speak of. It's a wrapper. And you know what? As I've said on my blog, and I believe I've probably said to Channel 9 before, I believe in IP protection. I believe that if somebody has invested a lot of time and money in creating something, they deserve to get a decent living from it. They don't deserve to sell one copy and have everybody in the web use it. That's not right. And, people who believe that everything should be free. Hey, I was reading today, you remember the famous quote from Nathan Myhrvold back in the 90s, information wants to be free? Nathan Myhrvold is now running one of the largest patent companies in the world, right?
Interesting how things change.
Information may want to be free, but my IP doesn't, right?
Yeah. But good information people will buy.
Exactly. If it's worth having, and also, I mean, a lot of that font IP. We, for example, have purchased huge amounts of font IP, all the fonts that ship with Windows and Office and so on. And anybody who buys a copy of Windows or Office or Mac Office 2008 or whatever gets those fonts and gets the license to use them. And by the way, all of those fonts have their embedding bits set to editable embedding. So you can embed those fonts on any website you want to any kind of level. So anyway, that's one of the things I've been driving is this whole font embedding thing.